Hi everybody, today we're going to be talking about three-variable equations. We use three-variable equations throughout all of physics. So we're going to go through these three examples, one of them in great depth, so you can learn a little bit more about what they are and what to do with them, and in particular, what a variable is. Okay, and what do all these letters stand for? So with our first example, is d, or distance, equals to st. S is speed, t is time. And in this equation, since the s and the t are next to each other, it means we multiply the s times the t. Our next equation, F equals ma, which is Newton's famous second law. F stands for force, m stands for mass, and a stands for acceleration. We don't know these numbers, but whenever we multiply the mass times the acceleration, we get the force. So these are basically placeholders where when we find out the mass and the acceleration, we can put them in, multiply them together, and just like that, we'll get the force. This equation we're going to deal with later, much later in the year. In this equation, V, or voltage, stands for I, or current, that's a tricky one, times R, or resistance. So let's go back up and look at our first equation a little closer. Once again, D is going to stand for distance, S is going to stand for speed, and T is going to stand for time. So if we knew the speed, S, and the T, time, we could multiply them together, and we get the distance. But you know something? Sometimes we know the distance and the time, and want to find the speed. So in that case, we're going to have to do something a little different. So what we do in that case is we're going to take, if we want to find the speed, we're going to do a little algebra, divide both sides by t, and we'll get S is equal to d over t. So if we know the distance and time and want to get the speed, we take the distance and divide it by the time. Okay? What if we want to find the time? In this case, we do a little algebra by dividing both sides by the speed, and we get the time is equal to the distance over the speed. So we can actually take the distance here and divide it by the speed, and we'll get the time. Okay? So when we see this fraction, it means you take the top number and divide by the bottom number. Okay? You want to find the time? You need the distance and the speed. You want to find the speed? You need the distance and the time, and you'll divide them. Want to find the distance? You need the speed and the time. In this case, since they're next to each other, you multiply them together. Okay? So remember that. Sometimes scientists are lazy too. We don't always like to write those multiplication symbols, so we just leave them out. So two numbers next to each other like this in an equation means that you're going to multiply them together. Okay, thank you. If you need to go watch this video a few times, you can rewind it and watch it as many times as you'd like. Thank you. We'll have another video soon.